Hey, y'all, each week on The Sam Sanders Show from KCRW, we ask big questions and share hot takes about the pop culture we love.
Now that we have YouTube, we don't need any more biopics. If they've been alive such that I can watch them on YouTube, I don't need it.
I don't think that music is getting worse. I think y'all just don't listen to artists who aren't in the mainstream.
Taylor Swift, retire. It's time to retire.
The Sam Sanders Show from KCRW, wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube.
My parents didn't know what to do with me because we were really at odds, and they forced me into therapy. But luckily, they found this amazing woman. She really changed the trajectory of my life.
This is Life in 7 Songs from the San Francisco Standard. I'm Sophie Behrman. This week, I'm sitting down with a therapist, one who has brought deeply intimate and typically private conversations to TV. Dr. Orna Guralnik is a clinical psychologist and psychoanalyst and the star of Showtime's docuseries Couples Therapy, where she counsels couples on screen and viewers get to watch their progress over the course of a season. It's a rare window into real-life sessions, demystifying the therapeutic process and challenging the stigma around couples therapy. And as someone who has been to and benefited from couples therapy, I can say I really appreciate how Dr. Guralnik works. She's a listener, but she also isn't afraid to point out inconsistencies or push back. Here's a clip. This is from season 4.
Shouldn't we be focusing our energy on the beginning parts of the friction and argument?
I think that's one way to possibly go. From my experience, it doesn't really work. And it doesn't matter who started.
I just feel like it does matter who started it.
It matters if you're in court.
I mean,
it doesn't matter if you want to just make things better.
Dr. Guralnik joined our podcast from her office in New York City, which is why you'll hear plenty of sirens and street noise. Dr. Guralnik, thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be here.
So I want to start talking about your show Couples Therapy, which premiered in 2019. The idea of pulling back the curtain on real couples therapy sessions and putting them on TV for everyone to see was and is pretty groundbreaking. Why did you want to do the show?
Well, honestly, I didn't actually want to do it first. I wanted to advise them and make sure they're not basically making a mess, because it sounded like a crazy idea, and I was worried that they're basically not going to represent the profession well. So I wanted to come on as an advisor and make sure that they're doing the right thing. And then we really, like the creators of the show, and I really hit it off. We just had like the most amazing conversations, and I realized these guys are amazing and they're in it for the right thing. And they said, why don't you try? And it just somehow worked. And it just became this thing we're doing together that was just awesome.
I've heard you talk about how, as a psychoanalyst, you need to be somewhat, maybe more than somewhat, private about your personal life. What is it like then to become a public figure while maintaining those boundaries?
Complicated and far from perfect, in the sense that the people that really have to carry the burden of it are my actual patients. I mean, not patients on the show, but patients in my private practice, because they've lost me as a completely private person. I mean, some people choose not to read or watch anything, but they can't help but, their mother has seen me or their best friend knows who I am. It compromises the work to some degree. And for me personally, if I'm not worrying about the burden that my patients carry, it's not a big change. I mean, my life is my life.
Well, of course, we are going to talk about you now through the lens of the music. Your first song, it takes us back to when you were 6 years old living in Atlanta. It's Let It Be by the Beatles. So what's the story behind this song?
I mean, I don't have a lot of early memories, but I definitely have a memory of going to a friend's house. There were a bunch of us kids there, and they had a record player, and they played this song, and I was absolutely blown away. And somehow I got my hands on a 45 RPM of Let It Be and took it home, and I had my own little white record player. And I was obsessed with this song. It just like catapulted me into like a whole new understanding of like what life is.
Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Yeah, there will be an answer. Let it be.
My dad was both a classical pianist and an aerospace engineer. And my mom was contemporary art curator. I mean, they had very deep interests in the arts. So our life was kind of saturated with music and literature and art. But my dad thought that anything but classical music is absolute garbage. And he did not allow me to have pop music at home. It was just like trash, forbidden. And I had to hide my record. Like he wanted me to throw it away. I hid it under my bed. That was my first stash of private stuff, was my Let It Be little record was under my bed. And when he wasn't home, I would listen to it.
I know that parents sometimes might be upset to learn that their children have all sorts of secrets, hidden stashes. But of course, developmentally, I imagine that's actually quite important for children and even adults, right? To have secrets. Why aren't secrets always a bad thing? Can you speak about that a little bit?
Why are they not a bad thing?
Yeah.
Because
or why is it important to have stashes?
Super important, because it's really important to have an interior life. You want to be in relationship with the world as a child. You want to be in a good relationship, an influential relationship with your parents, with your peers. But it's really important to have an inner world, like a psychic world of your own, which requires the assertion of certain kind of boundaries between you and the world so you can differentiate yourself from the world. So all these like private stashes, you know, they're symbolic of like having an inner world that is not in direct communication with the outside world, but a place for you to have your own experiences. And that's certainly what it was for me.
Your family moved from Atlanta to Tel Aviv when you were 7, and your next song connects to that time in Israel. And it's also a song, unlike the first, that is shared with your father. So what did you choose and why?
Well, I think when I was making my list, I was like, when I was thinking about my dad's difficulty with pop music, I mean, I used to listen to music with my dad a lot, not only classical music, but very specific classical music. And I was remembering that at some point, there were a few pieces of music while I was growing up that suddenly, like, our tastes converged. Like we could find each other in it. And for this, I chose the Rite of Spring. You know, he was a modernist, and there were a lot of like staccato, really intense kind of changes of rhythms that were in a way closer to what I loved about popular music. I mean, the Rite of Spring is just such an interesting piece. It's such a mixture of different genres, and anyone can find themselves in it if they really listen. Amazing. When Stravinsky came out with the Rite of Spring, he was booed out of the theater. I mean, it was like so radical, his music.
Tell me a little bit about each of your parents.
I mean, both of my parents are like complex, I mean, like many people, they're complex beings. I mean, I also had a complicated relationship with them because I'm a pretty fierce-minded, independent spirit, and they were too. So it was not an easy household for all of us to share, which is probably very much related to the profession that I chose eventually, which is all about kind of negotiating differences.
I think I read that your parents' relationship, like many couples, wasn't always perfect. And as a kid, you sort of observed their couplehood. How did that inform the work you do as well?
Well, they were both really strong personalities. And I was growing up, you know, in the 60s and 70s, where really what unfolded in front of my eyes was like the feminist revolution. where they both had very strong careers, but they were emerging out of the 50s into like a much more progressive time and really struggling with it. And I watched their struggles, and kind of as a kid, I identified with each of them and tried in my mind to like figure out how do they navigate these differences. Like, who's going to take the car? They had one car for many years. Like, who's going to take the car in the morning? Who gets to drive the car versus take public transportation? And how do you negotiate that? Based on what? Is it based on patriarchy? Is it based on who's bringing in the money? Or is it just based on some idea of fairness? Stuff like that. And then also I can add to it that I was also growing up at a time where Israel was negotiating its differences with its neighbors. So in a way, I mean, like many of us, like my life was marked by observing very complicated conflicts and differences and trying as a kid to figure it out. Like, what's the right thing to do? What's the right way to resolve it? How do you get back to a state of harmony?
I come from a family of divorce, and just hearing you articulate the sort of structural and societal things that were happening that influenced their relationship is making me think I should go back to therapy, because I just look at it and I'm like, I don't know what happened.
Oh, interesting. Kids, they look at their parents to understand what the world is. It's a lot of figuring out that children do growing up, a lot of figuring out.
Your next song, it's Lou Reed's Coney Island Baby from his album with the same name. When were you listening to this?
That was my early teens. Like any teenager, I was like, my life was a lot about my friends, especially in Israel. Israel is like a super social, people live in communities basically. And I had this friend, Mish. I had two really, really good girlfriends. And with all of my friends during that time, music was like the thing we were doing. I remember we used to gather at Mish's house and listen to music. Coney Island Baby was one of those albums that we listened to over and over and over. And Mish would like hold court and basically lecture to us about Lou Reed and about like the meaning of these songs. And like, I think I became a teenager, a real teenager, listening to those albums.
When you're all alone and lonely in your midnight hour, and you find that your soul has been up for sale.
So moody.
What does it mean to become a teenager?
That's a really great question. I know what it feels like, but what does it mean? Let's try to put it into words. It's like you're leaving the more naive experience of the world of a kid who depends more and is more naive in their expectations, and you move, for many of us, it's moving into like the world of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean it in the sense that the world suddenly becomes a lot more, you experience it as a lot more edgy, with way more questions about where you come from and what do you believe in. You're shedding a lot, you're sloughing off a lot of what you knew your whole life till then, and you're exposed to much more raw kind of feelings, intense emotions, a lot of hormones. I was one of those teenagers that was a lot more both impulsive and rebellious, and I questioned a lot of what was around me. And that kind of music, like Lou Reed, was just very helpful in that way. It gave language to those feelings. Music was very helpful that way.
Your next song is A Last Straw by Robert Wyatt. This one is also connected to your teens, maybe your later teens.
Yeah, that was a later phase of my teenage years. And that's when, again, I would spend a lot of time with friends. It's kind of sad to me that people don't do that anymore nowadays, but this was still the era of vinyl. So we would sit together and listen to albums, side A, side B, from beginning to end. We would just sometimes get high. I mean, it was Israel, so it was hash, and just spend a whole night listening to albums. And it was just epic, really epic. And Robert Wyatt was just like a dream. Don't you think this is just amazing? This just still has a complete hypnotic effect on me. You can listen to his albums from beginning to end and you go on a journey with him. I mean, with like the early Genesis or the Yes albums. I mean, I'm talking about the early albums before they became all very popular or populist in their music, but they would create these like epic journeys. The album was like a journey that you go on. And that's what we did. It was the best. And it took you away from like all the stresses of like school and fights with your parents. And it was just another place to go, like an alternative reality that you could like float into.
After a quick break, Dr. Guralnik shares her first experience seeing a therapist as a teenager. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, I want to recommend a podcast. Hard Knocks is a show about resilience, self-discovery, and finding meaning after chaos, hosted by Amanda Knox. Each week, Amanda sits down with fascinating guests, writers, thinkers, artists, to explore how we learn, grow, and rebuild ourselves after life knocks us down. Amanda brings humor, honesty, and hard-earned perspective to every conversation, drawing on her own experience of being wrongfully convicted and rebuilding her life. Amanda was a guest on Life in 7 Songs in one of our most moving episodes, opening up about how music became a lifeline during her years of wrongful imprisonment. On our show, she spoke candidly about turning pain into wisdom and also about how we're all so much more than our worst moments. If you liked that episode, you'll love her show, available wherever you listen to podcasts.
I'm Jesse Alejandro Cottrell.
And I'm Emily Dreyfus, and this is Pacific Standard Time.
We have stories from all over the state of California, all the big battles that are happening here.
Prop 50,
housing affordability,
tech,
and immigration.
And we're really excited to bring you the stories about how California is dealing with what it means to be alive in 2025.
Subscribe to Pacific Standard Time, a new weekly show from the San Francisco Standard.
We'll have new episodes every Wednesday starting November 19th, wherever you get your podcasts.
I've read that it was during your teenage years that you had your first experience with a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, my parents didn't know what to do with me because we were really at odds. And they forced me into therapy, as many parents do with their teenagers. But luckily, they found this amazing woman. She really changed the trajectory of my life. I mean, one of the amazing things about her that I've taken in and really has become part of me is that she had no fear of teenagers. You know, people generally are afraid of teenagers. There's a lot of dismissiveness towards teenagers, especially teenage girls. And she was nowhere like that. She loved the whole adolescent vibe. She got it. She had no fear of the intensity of teenage years. And she was also herself into like music and film, and she was a political activist. She wasn't afraid of drugs. She was just a cool adult. And it was a really good experience. It kind of mediated between me and the world of adults in a way that was very helpful. So I'm forever grateful to her.
Did you ever go back and have a conversation with her as an adult?
Yeah, I did. Both went back and had a conversation with her as an adult. And also she came to New York some years ago. And I met her here in New York. And yeah, she's great.
So I understand it was a bit of a meandering path to actually becoming a psychoanalyst yourself. 2 years of Israeli military service, some traveling. You went to Tel Aviv University and studied film. Your next song is from that era of your life, your
Yeah.
20s. It's Bonjour, Tristesse
Mhm.
by Tuxedomoon.
Yeah.
Why this
Do you
song?
know this band,
I don't.
Tuxedomoon?
I
So
don't.
interesting because it's a San Francisco-based band. And in Israel at the time for the edgy kids, it was like the band. It's like totally the band. It was like the coolest. And people here in the States don't know them, which I don't really understand. But they made really interesting music, also very moody. They were like post-punk, post-new wave, very eccentric music. They came to Israel, and I don't even remember how it happened, but a few people and I ended up performing with them.
And when you say perform, did you sing? Did you dance? Did
I
you?
danced, I choreographed a performance piece. So I did a combination of video art and movement, like a interdisciplinary experience. It was very fun.
You want me too much, you want much too much from me. You need me too much, you need such a lot from me.
You get a feel for the era.
Uh-huh. And a big smile on your face.
It's a big smile because, first of all, I won't listen to that music now. It was just of a particular era, and it was just so, it's more kind of searching for something than like solidly great music. It's just going on the edge and looking for things.
What's the story of how you got from that era to being a psychoanalyst?
The trajectory is not straight from that area to psychoanalyst. First of all, it's becoming a clinician, like studying clinical psych. It's actually partially due to this incredible therapist that I had that opened my mind to a certain language that helped me understand the world. And I loved it. I was interested in thinking psychologically through experience. That's part of what drew me to study psychology. And then studying madness. I was very drawn to working with very mentally ill people. I just found it fascinating. But I studied clinical psych and then actually did other things with the clinical psych degree. I did research for some years and even did some corporate work. And only later I got into psychoanalytic training, which is like a whole other thing. It's like a whole other 10 years of studies. But that's eventually what I ended up doing, and I love it. It's the best.
Your next song is The Good Times Are Killing Me by Modest Mouse.
Fun.
Where does this take us?
I mean, we're doing a big jump here in terms of like history, but I studied, did my PhD, and then I had kids. So there's like a whole period of getting very deeply absorbed in professional life, domestic life. And I think during that time, even though I always listened to music, music kind of receded a little bit. I was just so busy with other things. And then I think once I started kind of taking a breather again, there were a couple of bands that were markers for me of like rediscovering music. And Modest Mouse is one of those bands.
But cut dick heads didn't like what I said. The good times are killing me. Just clenched tight, we talked all night about what the hell did we say.
Friends and I started going to concerts, to hearing live music again. It was sort of my gateway back into music.
And into yourself.
Yeah.
Like sort of a reclaiming.
A reclaiming of, again, I guess that more interior space. It's in a way necessary to lose yourself to your children and to domestic life. You have to. But it's great to find your way out.
For your last song, we have Kendrick Lamar's Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. Although you also gave nods to a bunch of other songs. You gave nods to Donald Glover and Frank Ocean. So I get the sense it was hard to choose.
Yes.
What is it about these artists, all of them, that you love so much?
I love them so much. First of all, the music is so darn good. They're contemporary geniuses like Kendrick and Frank Ocean and Childish Gambino. There's such a mix of genres and it's such complex music. You know, in a way, they're the folk artists of our time in the sense that the music and the lyrics all reference each other. There's always some kind of reference to each other in their music and the way they like to collaborate with each other. But there's also, their music is highly political in the sense that there's always reference to, for example, the Black experience and class.
I woke up this morning and figured I'd call you in case I'm not here tomorrow. I'm hoping that I can borrow a peace of mind. I'm behind on what's really important. My mind is really distorted. I find nothing but trouble in my life. I'm fortunate you believe in a dream. This orphanage we call a ghetto is quite a routine. And last night was just another distraction.
Seriously, truly. And for me personally, it's where my kids and I can connect. The three of us love the same music, which is just so fun. We listen to these artists together and just it's a very good experience. And actually going back to the beginning of our conversation, that was very hard for me to find with my parents. And I just love having that with my kids.
You hear a lot that people become therapists or go into mental health to try to perhaps figure something out about themselves. And if that's true, what have you figured out?
I don't totally relate to that. I think for me, being a therapist and being a psychoanalyst is more about an ongoing figuring out something about existence and about the world. I mean, there's always work that I'm doing on myself, but I'm not in it to figure out myself. I think I'm more in it to keep understanding, and I don't even know if understanding, it's figuring out or transmuting something about the nature of existence. It's one of those languages, and some people do it through the psychological, psychoanalytic language. Some people do it through music. They're trying to capture something about what it means to be alive through music. It's something about living an examined life, pondering the nature of existence and human existence, but not only human. I mean, psychoanalysis is beyond human. It's also our relationship to the non-human world and time.
And hearing you say all that, I imagine it's really not so much about finding an answer, right?
No.
It's really the process.
It's the process, yeah. I mean, tying it back to music, it's not like you hear one song and you're done. You always want to be listening to music. You're never done. You're just always in the process.
So a few of our guests have said that participating in this show, picking their 7, talking about them, has felt a little bit like a therapy session. Some of them even cry and then are very surprised afterwards, sort of like what just happened to me, you know? I'm curious because I now have an expert.
It's the music.
It's the music. Why?
First of all, music is an incredibly emotional experience. Really, music calls forth our emotional system in the most unmediated way. You know, and some people talk about the transcendence of music. There's something about it that is sublime. I think it brings out the best in us, music. Music is also just a full-on sensory memory of a time in your life. You know, it's the way Proust talks about the taste of a Madeleine. I mean, for a lot of us, it's like the sound of a certain song. You know, it opens up like a whole door of memories that you can feel very viscerally. It's very different from telling a story in words. It's just so much richer in terms of what it puts you in contact with.
Dr. Guralnik, thank you so much for sharing your 7 songs with us.
Thank you for inviting me to do this. This was super fun.
Life in 7 Songs is a production from the San Francisco Standard. Our senior producer is Jasmine Morris. Our producers are Michelle Lands. She also mixes the show, and Tessa Kramer. Our theme music is by Kate Davis and Zubin Hensler. Clark Miller created our show art, and our music consultant is Sarah Tempechian. Executive producers are Griffin Gaffney, John Steinberg, and me. As always, you can find this guest's full playlist at sf.news/Spotify. And don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think of the show by leaving us a rating. I'm Sophie Behrman. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week.